We finish up our combine preview by giving you 10 offensive linemen that you need to watch on Sunday, next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
I'm going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there if you feel the Bears need an offensive lineman. And also make sure to download the podcast everywhere that you get your podcast. Welcome back. This is our final day, our 50 players in only 4 days of the combine. If you have watched all 4, you're an absolute sicko, and I love you. Thank you. So we have been covering all things NFL draft. We're going to have a free draft guide for everybody that's out there. You don't have to sign up or do anything like that. Don't worry, it's going to be out in a couple weeks. I'm finishing that up. So all the graphics that you see today will be inside of that. And it has so many good little notes. It's free. It's free because we're Bears fans and we are obsessed with the draft. We are obsessed with the offseason. And speaking of being obsessed with things, we're obsessed with our offensive line because we need to get it right. So on Sunday, on March 2nd, from noon over to 4 o'clock, the offensive linemen are going to take the stage at the scouting combine. So I'm going to give you 10 names, and I actually am going to give you 10 names. So for those that have seen this, I always go over, but we're going to actually have exactly 10 names to watch out for at this scouting combine, people that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on. And so I'm going to just get right into it. Let's go with number 1. This is not a big surprise for anyone, and that's Kelvin Banks Jr. No, you've probably already seen the episode that I had breaking down Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle out of Texas, and you're going to see a common thread with all these different tackles that we're going to be breaking down. So the tackles this year, a lot of the offensive tackles are tackles that have guard bodies, and Kelvin Banks Jr. supposedly is going to have arms like an actual offensive tackle, even though he's 6'4", 320 junior out of Texas. And this guy has got the NFL quickness. He's got phenomenal quickness for him. And that's why, to me, I think that he's going to be a left guard. Even if he's got the longer arms, you just really have to see what does he measure in at. And another thing I want to just call out for everyone. So for anyone that's like, well, he's played his entire college career. Well, look at Peter Skoronski, right? Peter Skoronski, phenomenal Northwestern product, really hasn't been that good in the NFL, which I'm actually very surprised at because he was so technically sound. But that was someone with short arms, not adequate enough height. And just in case if you're curious, the average height of the starting offensive tackle is 6'5", 3/4. So if you're 6'5" 3/4, you are average height for a starting or for an offensive tackle. That's the 50th percentile right there. 6'5", 3/4. For a guard, subtract 2 inches. It's less than 6'4". So that's what we're talking about with people moving over to guard, and then the arm length, right? And if you don't believe me because I didn't play in the NFL, Kyle Long says it best. He talks about length is strength, and I love that. He's like, when you're playing tackle, that length that you have is your biggest strength because you can keep people away from you. They're really good. You need every advantage you can. So arm length, the mean arm length, the average arm length for a offensive tackle is 34.12 inches. Then for guard, it's 33.1. So you're talking that inch counts. That inch counts. So with this, look for those arm lengths. That's going to be key. That's what Kelvin Banks, I think he's maybe going to be inside of that 34-inch range. So definitely something to look out for. But yes, look at what his whole measurements are, but also too with any of this, like we do in the other episodes, make sure to also watch him in the drills. How fluid is he? Because his whole thing is quickness. Listen to what also the experts are saying as he's moving. Kelvin Banks should look really good being quick. Next, like I said, for the tackles, it's going to be all about the measurements, and Will Campbell is one of the biggest measurements that he needs. Even though he's 6'6", 323, maybe lines in maybe a little less than that, maybe he's around that 6'5" range, but a lot of people are saying his arms are going to be less than the average threshold, which is going to kind of scare a little bit of people. But still, this guy knows how to play football. He's a 3-year starter at left tackle for LSU, was a captain as a sophomore. They were going to give him the patch, like the number 7 or whatever, number 7, whatever it is for LSU, but he couldn't wear it because he couldn't wear the number because he's an offensive lineman. So he had to wear a patch. Like he's just an offensive lineman's offensive line guy. Like he's just, you hear him talk, you hear him just like all the other stuff. He's just an absolute offensive lineman. Now, I've said this before. I got a little nervous because the first game that I saw was against Texas A&M, aka NFL competition. Didn't look great. But also, too, when you watch tape, I think when he's one-on-one on an island, he doesn't hold up like you would expect, like what Joe Alt or like other top tackles have done. And I think that's why also he does kind of project inside of that guard to have some of those bumpers on. But all that you need to know, the dude can play offensive line. The guy's an offensive lineman through and through, right? You don't have to overthink it. He's just a good, sound player. So then also, we're just continuing the whole undersized tackles. Don't worry, we have other people that we're not just going to be focused on the measurements. I wanted to just kind of capture the 3 top players that are out there besides Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, because Josh Simmons, there's the injury concerns. That's why it's also big for him. But look for Armand Membou. He's a right tackle, but he could shift down over to the right guard because he's only 6'3". He's 6'3", and let's see, 6'3", 314. So he's a smaller guard for sure, a smaller tackle for sure. Very, very short at that 6'3" mark. Yet again, you have to see just what his measurables are. But I do feel like he's going to move into the right guard position. But also a cool little fact about this guy as well. He's fast. He recorded 20 miles per hour in a spring practice on the GPS timer. This guy is fast. He's very quick. And also too, when you put on the tape, he's just got very nice body control. Like the guy just sits down in his stance and you just see him. He always seems like he's in control. He's got good agility, good quickness. He's going to be a really good right guard. Every time I'm watching him, I'm going, this guy just reminds me of Robert Hunt, right? Robert Hunt, just phenomenal right guard now for the Panthers. Membou just reminds me of that type of a player. And also just a perfect fit inside of zone systems. But yet again, the whole story of this is going to be going down to, are these tackles or are these guards? I think Membou's going to be discussed more as a guard. I think Banks is going to be discussed this way up until the moment that he gets drafted. And then people saying, hey, we'll probably put him at tackle, then shift him to guard. And I think Will Campbell is going to stick at that tackle moniker unless his arms are 32 inches. Then I think people are really going to be looking at him going, okay, what is he? Is he an actual guard? But I still think he's going to go high just because of what he's been able to achieve. So now, let's actually talk about some tackles, because these are the 2 people that should then measure as an actual tackle and be that person. So like I've said, this year, I've seen so many people that seemingly are going to be tackles that move over to guard. Aireontae Ersery is someone from Minnesota that should stay as a tackle. He should stay as that. He's 6'6", 330, big guy. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Darnell Wright when he was coming out. But when we were kind of talking about, Darnell has a lot to learn. He's really kind of put it together, but he's got a lot to learn. And Ersery was someone who was projected to be one of the best offensive tackles last season, came back and just didn't really have that great of a season. Redshirt senior year, so maybe should have came out as a junior, but just was not able to capitalize. But still not bad numbers by any stretch of the imagination. 10 hurries, 1 hit, 1 quarterback hit, and 1 sack. So I just want to see his measurements, because to me, you just look at him and you go, this is a true tackle. This is a true left tackle. And we know, I like the idea of the Bears getting a tackle to develop behind a Braxton Jones, and you have them compete for that left tackle spot. Ersery is also projected to go in. He's right now the consensus big board number 40. And those other tackles that we were talking about, those are all projected to go in the first round. They're pretty much locks in the first round, unless something crazy ends up happening. But Ersery, to me, just that powerful blocker. When his hands are on you, he's going to just plow you. And the only thing, though, is in traffic, kind of feels a little awkward, similar to what Darnell Wright was in college. People forget this. Darnell Wright was kind of an awkward run blocker until he got his hands on you when he was at Tennessee, because people just assumed big guy, push forward. That's where I think that there's a lot of similarities with them. The only other thing, too, with Ersery, there's a lot that you can teach with him, because it felt like when you put on the tape and he's going against better competition, he's going against like an Abdul Carter, they'll definitely use his size and his momentum against him. And those more experienced pass rushers will really just kind of give him some fit. So at the NFL, you're going to be going against those people that are going to try and take advantage of you using your leverage. So then they'll use that against you. So that's just some of the downsides. But I do just want to see, what type of an athlete is this guy? How fluid of a mover is he? But he's someone I'm just consistently looking at, because like I said, I like the idea of getting a tackle. And when you watch enough tape, you realize that day 3 tackles are just not good, are just typically not good. But Ersery is one of those people that could come in, like I said, just start developing and learning, and he could turn into something because he's got that build that you want. So now let's talk about the other person that I have actually just watching this tape, I just really liked. And we talked about this on the wide receiver episode, where sometimes there's people that you can just like copy and paste a profile with, and then that's who they are. Wyatt Milum, which I realized I misspelled his name on the graphic, on the previous graphic. He is 6'6", 317, and if you just want to know who he is, Brady Christensen and Austin Fries. Both were tackles that played tackle, and they were solid, but they really found their footing when they moved inside to guard. Now, some people might think, well, why is that? Why would you take someone who's 6'6" and move him into guard? Just keep him out at tackle. Well, the reason is when you watch his tape, he just he needs his bumpers on, so to speak. Like he needs to have people around him, because if he's just inside of that like phone booth where he doesn't have to, like if he's not on an island with people, he does phenomenally well. He's got great speed. He's got great size. He's got great power to his game. And you look at it, PFF grade 91, which was second best in the entire NCAA. He's got the speed. He's got the power. Christensen has turned into a decent offensive lineman, and Austin Fries has been a very good offensive lineman as well. Maybe he comes to the Bears. We'll see. He's a free agent this year. But really, I really like Wyatt out of West Virginia. Just watching his tape, I'm like, this guy's really good. He can play any run scheme, run system. But yeah, he just kind of struggles when he's just in open space with people, because he's going to try to latch on. He's going to try and lunge at someone, and then people will just kind of cut it inside. And he just got beat by so many inside moves. But I just want to see how big of an athlete he actually is. And also, similar to when we talk about Will Campbell, both are 6'6", but the question is, how long are those arms actually going to be? So just like with Brady Christensen and Austin Fries, both measured at around 6'6", but with shorter arms, and ultimately they found a home on the inside. But with all these offensive linemen, I like watching the drills. I like watching the offensive line drills. If you don't, no worries, totally get it. But that's where I'm really excited to see just how Wyatt ends up performing. So those are my tackles, quote unquote. I now want to talk about the interior, where, spoiler alert, it's just a bunch of centers and just two guards, but just a bunch of different centers out there. And I want to start with someone that I'm seeing a lot of Bears fans really fall in love with, and that's Jake Majors out of Texas. He's a Texas Longhorn, and what you got to know about him, let me just actually go to his actual slide that's out here. So Jake Majors is 6'3", 315 out of Texas. This is a 4-year starter. And the reason why I'm watching out for him is this is center number 4 on the consensus big board. And also, I forgot to mention this as well, Wyatt out of West Virginia, he's projected to go, he's the number 68 overall prospect. So projecting to get down into that 3rd round, maybe 2nd. So it all depends on how exactly he grades. And Ersery looking more inside of that 2nd round type of projection. But with Jake Majors, this is someone that you could get day 3. I see people getting him in rounds 5, round 6. He's 6'3", 315, a 4-year starter at Texas. And this guy we need a center that can help call the protections. And that's what Jake Majors can do. He's got the IQ. He's got the experience. And also, too, this is someone who was asked to perform one-on-one pass blocking reps very, very frequently at Texas. So when you look at the stats, you see 13 hurries. And compared to other interior players, people might think that that's pretty bad. But when you actually look at what types of snaps he actually had out there, you'll realize that, hey, this guy is actually pretty darn good at defending the pass. 85.4 pass blocking grade. So the grade at least backs up what I was at least seeing on tape, where the guy can block really well. Very, very good pass blocker. Run blocking, I think like when he gets his hands on you, it's good. But I do have questions with him reaching that second level. And I think that's going to be the bigger question. What type of mobility does he have? Because he's only 6'3", 315, which is not terrible for a center, but still, like, it's a little bit small. It's on the smaller end. So Jake Majors being just a really, really good pass blocking center, does Ben Johnson want that? Or does he want like the Frank Ragnow's, where he's just a bigger center, someone that can also probably get out into space? Majors really can't do that too well. Majors is a slower type of build, slower and a little bit smaller, but still a really good pass protector, which, Lord, we need for Caleb Williams. So that's what I feel about Jake Majors. I just want to see how he tests because of that speed concern that I have with him. But now moving on to the next is Gray Zabel, who this guy is probably going to blow up the combine. This is someone who's guard number 3, center number 1, whatever you want to put him at. This guy's played every position for North Dakota. He was also someone that blew up the Senior Bowl. He's probably going to do the same thing at the scouting combine. This guy, when I put on the tape, I was thoroughly impressed, because sometimes when you're watching offensive line tape, because, I'll watch like a full game. And when you watch the full game, you just sometimes you can get a little bored. Like sometimes you're like, okay, like that snap didn't mean anything. There's a lot of there's so many snaps out there. So you have to watch you have to watch so many of these. But Gray Zabel has such fun full game tape, because I've never seen someone that when he blocks someone, he will take you from one hash to the entire other side of the hash. Like, he is a phenomenal run blocker, 86.5 PFF grade, and a great pass blocker, 93.1 pass grade. Now, the thing I will call out, because Bears fans have called this out on tape, reminds me a little bit of how Braxton Jones gives up some ground. That's probably his biggest negative. Or he's also gotten a lot of penalties. So those are his two negatives. But man, he's fun to watch. He's a very, very, very good left tackle that could be a guard, center, wherever you want him to play. He's really good. But like I said, what I think some people will not like about his game is he'll take some ground, but he'll stay in front of his guy, but also he'll be a little grabby with his hands. But when he's in the run game, he will just absolutely maul people. Even though he's only 305 pounds, this guy is just, he's 6'6". People are already kind of penciling him in as a guard or even like a center. That's what he was playing at the Senior Bowl. But this is someone who I think is probably going to go in round 1 when all is said and done, just because dominance at the Senior Bowl. I think he's going to be great at the scouting combine. And just the tape also says it too. Just very, very good player. Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. Watch him, and he might be that next, Ali Marpet and other people like that. That's who he's kind of being projected out to. So now let's go to the next person, where it's Donovan Jackson. This is, I see it as like a fan favorite in round 2 that people want the Bears to get. And Donovan Jackson, you could just nickname him Stonewall, because that's what he is. He's a former 5-star recruit, goes over to Ohio State and is a multi-year starter at that left guard position. This year, he had to shift over to left tackle. That's why you have to take his PFF grades and his numbers with a grain of salt. He's not a left tackle. He had like 500 snaps at left tackle and only 200 this year at left guard. But before that, he was a phenomenal left guard. Very, very good. Grades always good, not like elite, anything like that. But, this year, ranked 124th out of The guards with a 71.8 grade. Just overall, Donovan Jackson, not a left tackle. But why you can just give him the nickname Stonewall, it's his functional strength. When you see him out there and somebody is like, as soon as they snap the ball, he does not move the guy does not move in front of him. Like if it's a passing snap, he just stonewalls him. And if he gets his hands on you, you're gone. And that's why to me, it's just that he's a prototypical left guard. If you draft him, he's just going to want to be that super close range right there going against that person. He's the consensus 35th player overall. So he might be there for the Bears with their first, second round pick. But the thing that I just have a little bit of concern, similar to like a Jake Majors, I don't know if Donovan Jackson to me is not an outside zone system guy. So this goes back down to Ben Johnson and the offense that we're running. Jackson just might not be a fit for our system because when he's asked to move, I just don't see the fluid feet. I don't see the fluid movement skills that you want with someone that's like pulling or playing in an outside system. So those are my only kind of concerns that I have with Donovan Jackson. But the guy is just pound for pound one of the strongest offensive linemen that you'll see this year. And just, yeah, the guy's, when he's got his hands on you, you're stonewalled. You're stuck there. That's exactly what Donovan Jackson does. That's actually kind of fun to watch because you're like, yep. Like he just grabs you and he just turns you and you're like, yep, you're not moving anywhere. you're done. But Donovan Jackson, I think it's going to be more of a question of fit. But the reason why I want to see him on the scouting combine side is just how does he move? Like I said, my questions are about his movement skills. But next player on the opposite side, Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia, phenomenal movement skills. He's center number 1. He is projected 103rd player on the consensus big board, 6'3", 310. So you already know this guy's a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller. That's exactly the questions that we have. So what does he weigh in at? But also his athleticism is his biggest plus. I think he's going to look fluid. I think he's going to look great. Also too, he's only had 1 season as a starter at Georgia. So that also opens up some questions too. Like, hey, why weren't you starting? Well, they had Van Pran. They had other people at that center position. But Jared Wilson steps in, gets PFF's 11th highest graded center in the entire NCAA at 79.6. But just fluid mover, quick, fast. And you look at the stats as well, only allowed 5 hurries and 1 quarterback hit. And my favorite stat, earned a 90.5 true pass grade. So on true passing sets, he just stands in there, 90.5 grade, which is absolutely elite. So when people know it's a passing down, Jared Wilson steps up and plays phenomenally. So if we want more of an agile center, someone that can move out in the open space, this is that guy. He, as soon as he snaps the ball, like a Jason Kelsey, snaps it, gets back up. So yet again, I think he's going to look really good inside of this combine because he's going to be able to showcase his athleticism. That's why I'm watching out for Jared Wilson. And also, we need to figure out center. Hopefully we can sign someone, but if we want someone that also, Jared Wilson has played a little bit at the guard position before, like kind of as a fill-in role. So he could be someone that you can get with a 4th round pick or so that can potentially be a center of the future or fill in at some of those guard spots. But now, last but not least, I actually wish that I had him right after Jake Majors. This guy, Jonah Monheim. I totally butchered that last name. I'm so sorry for Monheim. Jonah Monheim, the center for USC, 6'5", 310, red shirt senior. Now, this is someone who, as someone from USC, played with Caleb Williams. Obviously, there is that Caleb Williams connection. But man, when I put on this tape, there's good and there's bad. So the bad is that there's no dominant film of him out there where it's not like he's putting someone into the ground. Not saying you have to do that, but I just didn't see a lot of when you see some of this tape, there's plays that you just go like plus, absolute plus, like great play by him. Jonah on tape, he doesn't really do that. But where he really impressed me, where it was really fun is this is some of the best play in space that I've seen, like getting to that second level, seeing him move. He'll snap and just move and the speed that he has. It's phenomenal. And I think Ben Johnson would love this guy because he can use him as like, okay, we're going to have this play, we're going to snap it, and I need you to get out to this position. If he needs someone that can do that, Jonah is the guy. And that's the thing that gets me excited about him. He's projected to go round 4, kind of that day 3, could be even side round 5. He's the number 160 overall player on the consensus big board and center 2 as the consensus. So you can see the big drop of about like 60 spots from Wilson over to Jonah. But this is someone that has also been left tackle, right tackle, and center. Really kind of seems to be the home because shorter arms, even though he's going to be 6'5", so pretty tall, good size for him. You want to see him gain a little bit more weight, but man, this guy can just move. If the Bears want a people, just like, not a people mover, but just a actual mover that can get wherever you need on the spot. Like, hey, we're going to run an outside zone. Jonah is that guy that the Bears should probably go after, later on. It's just, he also has that positional flexibility. I love him as a day 3 selection because I think that he could be something. I do really think that he could be something. And I think he's going to show out or he's going to be someone that's fun to watch at the scouting combine, just with his fluid movement. As soon as he snaps it, you're going to see him jump out. He's kind of like the off-brand Jared Wilson, but I think that he moves better than Jared Wilson. I think Jared Wilson is just a better prospect, a better blocker overall. So, did I miss anybody? There is a lot of offensive linemen out there. We could have had this list a lot larger, but those are some of the people that you need to watch out for on the offensive line for the scouting combine. So if you appreciate this deep dive into it, you can watch the other episodes, listen to the other episodes as well as we get you ready for the scouting combine. We're going to be breaking it down after all the scouting combines just to kind of say who won, who lost. I'm hoping that we can do this live too. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. So yeah, it would be fun to go live. So I think we're going to do that. It's been a while since we've gone live, since I've talked to you, the people. And then also make sure to download the podcast everywhere you get your podcasts. Stay tuned. With that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and you know that she's